If you're 60 years old, single, and have about $900,000 saved, and you're wondering if you can retire right now, this video is for you. A lady recently came to me with this exact question. She's been working and saving her entire life, and now that her health is starting to come into question, she's wondering if now's a good time to retire and focus on what matters most to her. So in this video, we're going to evaluate her situation to see if she can retire immediately. And as we're doing that, I'm going to answer 3 important questions along the way that anyone who retires before 65 needs to be able to answer. But before we jump in, my name is Jacob Duke. I'm a certified financial planner and the owner of a retirement planning firm where we help people just like you plan smarter and retire better. All right, here we have Mandy, and Mandy just turned 60 this year, and she's wondering if she can retire in December of 2025, 1 month from now, and actually call it quits here at the end of the year. So that's her primary goal. She's saying, hey, I want to retire at 60. I want to be able to spend about $2,500 a month. Now, that's her normal discretionary spending above her mortgage, which we'll talk more about in just a second. But then also that's in addition to her expected healthcare cost, which I have a plug number of $10,000 per year until she gets to 65. That would be how much she would have to pay for her private insurance before she gets to Medicare. Now, post-Medicare, it's about $3,400 is our estimate there for Part B, Part D, and then a Medigap plan on top of that. So that's an important factor in all of this too. Pre-65 is going to be the health insurance situation. Also, for now, she's saying, hey, I'd love to take extra vacations, just not sure if my dollars can support that or if my portfolio can do that right now, but we've got that plugged in as a zero amount. We'll play with that in just a moment. And also said, hey, I'd love to be able to do a $20,000 remodel in the kitchen at some point. Not sure if that's possible either, but if we can fit it in, that'd be great. So that's her goals. That's what she's trying to accomplish. Obviously, she wants to retire immediately. And then for her net worth, she's got about $30,000 in cash. She's got about $870,000 across a few different account types. She's got her 401k where she's actively working right now with $600,000 in it. She's got a Roth with $120,000, and she has this brokerage account down here that she inherited a few years back from a parent. And so a basis on that's about $120,000, and it's worth $150,000 now. So that is her current situation in terms of her assets. She does have a home that's worth about $450,000, and she owes $150,000 on that mortgage. Costs her about $1,200 per month. So that $1,200 is on top of the $2,500 of other spending and on top of her health insurance premium costs we're expecting here in 2026. Okay, so those are her goals. That's her net worth. Now, she's making about $110,000 right now as her salary today, but her Social Security at 67 would be about $2,950, so just under $3,000 a month. And I think she's saving a little bit of money to her 401k. Yep, she's putting 15% in there as well right now. So that's the lay of the land, and that's her situation. I first want to see, is retirement possible? And then from there, we can adjust and maneuver a few different things to see what else we can fit into her plan. So first, let's see how sustainable, based on these assumptions, her plan would be. So right away, we can see spending $2,500 a month, spending the $10,000 per year on her premiums pre-65, and still having that mortgage on the books. She's able to retire 100% of the time and never run out of money throughout the rest of her life. I've got her passing away, I think, at 90 right now. Yep, passing away at 90. So she's good to go in terms of that amount of spending. Now, she did say, hey, Jacob, $2,500, like, that's enough to do what I need to do, but it's also not enough to like enjoy life the way I'd like to. So I'd love to be able to add more to that. But to show you really quickly on the cash flows what that looks like, we can see that her total expenses are about $50,000 to $55,000 a year and how that's broken down. So her living expenses are about $30,000 to $31,000, but her housing's about $14,000, and healthcare next year, you see it's a big jump. That's a big one there in 2026. It drops off a little bit there once she does get to age 65, and it goes down a bit once she's at Medicare age. So that's kind of how her base living expenses kind of stack up. Now, if we go back really quick, I'm curious what we can do maybe to help her out here. She did mention that kitchen remodel, which is about $20,000, maybe what she would say for that. So let's plug that in. I've got it going here in 2026, first year of retirement. Well, I might as well knock it out early on as if we can. Curious if that makes a big dent. All it does is reduce her end-of-life balance. Now, what's important to know as a single retiree, you're not married, there's no spouse necessarily to, depend on your wealth or your assets after you're gone. A few things to consider there are going to be, your Social Security and your claiming strategy. If you're not thinking about spousal benefits or survivor benefits, that kind of frees you up to take the money whenever you might need it. But also, you don't have to leave anything at the end of your life either if there's no one to take over after you or no one that needs needs that money beyond maybe a child or someone else that you would love to give money to, but they don't need it necessarily like a spouse would in retirement. So that $1.8 million there, she still doesn't need to have that much left over, and she's still at 100% chance of success. So let's keep going down this trail just a little bit here. Let's say, what happens if we do the vacation goal? And this is going to be a 10-year vacation goal. I'm going to add an additional $10,000 per year to that, just go on another vacation or two. I'm curious if that hurts her too bad. It does not. It does not hurt at all. So I wonder if she can do the vacation, the remodel, and what if we bump this to, $3,500. Let's do another $1,000 a month and see what that gets her. There you go. Okay, so 82%. Now we're talking. So if you know anything about me in terms of how I like to think about this stuff, I don't want this number to be 100%. I don't, because that means we're not spending enough money, and here's the proof. We just added a 10-year vacation goal. $100,000 over the next 10 years is what she can do on vacation, and she can do the kitchen remodel she's wanted to do for quite a while for $20,000, and we're adding an additional $1,000 per month in perpetuity forever to her spending, bringing that up to $3,500. So under the proposed side, if we go to cash flows again, we go back to proposed, and now we can see this summary. It was about $50,000 per year of spending. Now her total expenses are, under the proposed side, it's this much more, right, in this goal. So now it's actually like $90,000, $100,000. That's $20,000 added in there for the one-time remodel. But about 80 grand or so is what we're looking at from a goal standpoint. That's the vacation money. And now her expenses as well for living expenses are increased to $3,500 a month compared to only $2,500. So we've increased her spending very dramatically here in these in the first few years and kind of in perpetuity, and she's still able to have 82%. Personally, I want this number, this chance of success, to be anywhere from 80 to 90%. I like that range because it means we have a little bit of variability. We have some flexibility. We can increase our spending a little bit. We can decrease a little bit. And in all of this, we know that this is simply an assumption and a projection. Yes, it's running thousands of potential outcomes and scenarios, but the system does not know how you could react as a human in terms of how much you could pull back. So if you're at 82%, guess what? And you're spending $3,500 a month, just go back to $2,500. And again, you're back to that really, really high and secure number. So you have control over your spending in retirement. Don't rely just on what this is telling you. Use the information it's providing and make decisions based on it for your situation. Now, one of the things that a lot of people focus on whenever it comes to retirement planning is going to be the distribution rate or the withdrawal rate. Is it at 4%? Because we've all heard of the 4% rule, but is that the right thing to follow? So first, what I wanted to do is to pay attention to Mandy's withdrawal rate. So we're going to look at the proposed plan. And if we come here with the, let's actually do it on the high side first, and we'll do 3,500, and we'll go all in on the 3,500 plus the vacation plus the remodel. We'll reset it, and let's go see the distribution rate or withdrawal rate in that scenario. So here's what's interesting is if I were to tell you that she was going to have a 9% withdrawal rate at 61, year one of retirement, you would probably freak out, right? And if that was yours, you would definitely freak out as well. Now, what's interesting here is that withdrawal rate is only high in these first few years because at least right now, we have her taking her Social Security benefits at 67 as opposed to 62 or anywhere in between. Again, she's only 60 right now, so she has a couple of years before she can even get there. Now, what this is saying is 9%, 7, 8, this right here would be the 9% because of the high withdrawal for that for the remodel. That's kind of a one-off thing. Really, the 7 to 8%, that's the normal one, and then we have it go up here again, and then it drops off here at 68. That goes down to 5.5%. The reason for that is because the Social Security will be kicking in at this point, meaning less of her portfolio is going to be needed. So less burden on the portfolio at that point. It goes down from here, it goes down again, right? And now we're in this normal safe range, and you can see RMD kicks in here as well. And that's kind of what that is. Now, what this is showing us is under this proposed plan, she's spending a lot more money on the front end. She's actually able to do the remodel and do the fun stuff and the vacations, right? The vacations drop off here right around this time frame, I believe, because we have 10 years worth at $10,000 a year. So that's why another reason it's added in as well. Now, if I just pull this back to $1,000 or $2,500 a month and do the kitchen remodel and do the vacation, if I refresh this really fast, it actually comes down a lot. So 8%, 6, 6, 6, and then it goes down from there. And then where we at 6, 5, and then it drops off again after the vacations are kind of going out. And then again, it goes down to nearly zero here whenever she's got full Social Security and minimal other expenditures for travel and vacation. So you can see that that's even better. And again, you have variability. You have the option as someone with control over your portfolio, assuming you're not spending outrageously, you have control over when you spend and how you spend. So in her situation, I'm totally comfortable with this. Now, what I want to explore next here is going to be what happens if we get a bad couple of years of investment returns, a big drop in the market. Does that change our decision around Social Security? Because this is one of the big decisions that we all have to face in early retirement is when do we take Social Security? 62, 65, 67, 70, what's the right thing? So if that happens, let's say we get a bad first 2 years, we drop 20% year one and 20% again in year two, you can see her withdrawal rate is astronomically high. It's very high. But does that mean it's actually bad? Let's see income sources. There's never a shortage in her plan. You can see that red would be there if there was a shortage because her Social Security makes up the majority of her spending need later on down the road. But even then, if we have a bad first 2 years, it goes up to, what is that, 12% if we did the remodel, goes to 10%, 10%. This is including the vacation and the remodel in it. So what we can do there is if we get that and have that happen, great, let's take the kitchen remodel out. Now it's going to change year one. So now we're at 9%. And what if we just say, hey, let's not do $10,000 a year on the vacation for 10 years. What if we cut back to 5 and only do 1 vacation instead of 2? Again, drops it down a little bit more. Now, again, this is if we get that bad scenario year one and year two. One other thing we could do here is we could flip on Social Security early. And now I'm curious what happens on this if we do it that way. I'm going to say actually take it as early as possible, which would be 62 for her since she's not yet there. So right here at 62, the first full year of benefits would be at 60, the year she turns 63. But you can see the withdrawal rate's 7 or 9, 7, 5, which is way more sustainable, right? And then it drops off dramatically there once she gets to RMD age, and her total spending on her vacation goes away as well. That might sustain her plan a little bit better. That might give her more flexibility in terms of sleep at night factor and not being worried about it all the time, take less of the burden off of her portfolio. So you've got to understand is if you're retiring pre-65 or retiring early, you've got to have a good understanding of when you're planning on taking Social Security, but also understand that it could change depending on your circumstances and the world around you. So have a plan for it, but also understand that it could change and you might have to iterate and adjust as life unfolds. That's one of the first questions you've got to ask yourself here in early retirement. Now, I put a full checklist together. If you want to check out that checklist and see where you rank and which ones you can check off and which ones you've thought about, there's going to be a link down in the description below for you to go and actually download your free checklist to see if you're ready to retire early or not, and all the things you might need to consider if you're retiring before 65. So if you want the checklist, it's down in the description below. Check out that link. Now, the next thing that we want to pay attention to here is going to be around her health insurance. So she's 60 right now, but here's the key. Tax diversification is so important when it comes to your subsidies for your premiums on pre-65 private health insurance. So if we look back at her profile, I'll remind you that she has this brokerage account. She has this Roth IRA. The Roth IRA can be taken completely tax-free, but the brokerage account, she only has about $30,000 of gains because she did inherit that money. It did receive a step-up in basis. So she can still realize gains at a 0% rate early on in retirement, not take Social Security just yet, live off this money, and she can keep her premiums low and get the full subsidies pre-65 for the first few years because she has this account to pull from. She can also pull a little bit of money out of her IRA too, but what I wanted to point out here is that she probably won't end up with $10,000 of premiums on her health insurance in these first 5 years because of the opportunity with the brokerage, the cash, the Roth, and a little bit out of her 401k. So what I'm going to do here is actually reduce her spending on her health insurance from $10,000 to $5,000. Okay, so that's for, 5 years worth of savings there. Now, if we go back to retirement, what we'll see immediately is I'm going to come back here and kind of redo some of these things. I'm going to put this back to current, and then we're going to say 10,000, and we're going to say 20,000 up front. Wonder if we have a lower expense there on the front end. We can do that. Perfect. And we can bump this. I think it was 82 at spending $3,500 a month and doing the vacations and doing the remodel. With the $10,000 of premium per year on her health insurance, I think it was 82%. I wonder if having that opportunity changes a lot there and reducing her benefits. Yeah, so it increased it by 4% chance of success. We're in a sweet spot there in terms of how much she might end up with later down the road. But the key there is whenever it comes to pre-65, again, retiring early before Medicare would kick in, you've got to understand how you're going to either reduce your income if you have the opportunity to, and also qualify for those subsidies. And really having tax diversification, having the ability to pull from different account types is so important in that opportunity. Because if you only have tax deferred IRAs or 401ks, your only source of income would be from those accounts, and every single time that is taxable. Now, another thing to consider here, and a final tidbit before I let you go, is that if she decides to take her Social Security pre-65, so let's say it's 62, to kind of mend the gap or bridge the gap there if we get a bad pullback in the market and she needs to take some weight off the portfolio, if she decides to take money from Social Security early and start getting her benefits early, her full benefit would be factored into her modified adjusted gross income when it comes to qualifying for those subsidies. So that's important to consider, the full gross benefit, not the taxable amount, because I've done videos on this and I'll have them linked below. She could take all of her Social Security and pay no taxes on it if she has minimal other income. But the key is all of her benefits would be factored into her modified adjusted gross income for those health insurance subsidies. So there's so many layers to all of this. There's so many things to consider and think about. And if you're somebody who's like, Jacob, this makes a lot of sense, I see what you're saying, but it also is very confusing, and you're like, I want help with that, there's a link down in the description below as well where you can book a call with me. It's completely free to see if you would benefit from what we do here at Rivertree. So thanks so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. We will see you in the next video.